Awesome. Okay.
Sorry, Blue, just very quickly, how do you start this rule? Because when I click on skip waiver rules, there's nothing happens. What about that toggle next to it? Where do I go to even do all this with the rule? On the right-hand side?
What's the name of your organization, Irina?
The new one I just created, Out of the Hustle and Radiant Mastery. That's the organization.
What's it called? Mastery?
Radiant Mastery.
The one with the logo?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this one right here?
Yes.
Okay. So when I go to check in waiver, if you click on skip tech check rules, you click add rules,
Oh, got
tags,
it. Yeah, okay.
includes VIP or whatever. And now you can have people who have already answered or like already have a tag skip this particular step.
Got it. Thank you.
You are welcome.
And that's how hard it is to see, look at the form. That's exactly the page.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. So edit post form styles. The first thing you're going to want to do is just come in here and change the input text color. You can change the helper text color if you want. And
what is helper text color?
So the helper text color.
Oh, helper question, right?
You got it.
Okay.
So now if we go back, let's see if this worked. Yep, there you go. So it's already starting to be better. It's not perfect yet because we didn't include the label question. But you can see dragon, unicorn, spiritual, in metaphysics. These things are already better and easier to see.
Just that one. The helper question is very small.
Yeah, there is not currently a way to change the font size. But helper text color is also the wrong color, and label text color, we'll just make that black as well. And there you go. So that's better. I know what you're saying, that the helper text is a little bit small. I don't have a way for you to fix that right now.
Can it be fixed eventually?
Possibly.
Because everybody, it's a question for the form, right? For the survey.
Yep. Yep.
Do you put question in a form name or in a helper? Maybe I'm putting it in the wrong place.
I put it, so if it were me, rather than dragon or unicorn, I would take that and I would put it there.
Okay, name.
Right. And now when you go to the waiver step, oh, I forgot to press save. That's on me. Sorry. So dragon or unicorn, and then delete the helper text, click save, and then click save changes up here. And now waiver. There you go.
Oh, that's better.
Now, here's the other thing that I would say to you. This question type allows them to pick both dragon and unicorn.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I don't want that. And I said there was a place where you say no multi-checking.
No, this is what you would do here is you would change that to a radio button. And now they can only select one or the other.
Got it. Perfect.
That's what you're going to want to do there. And then belief system, what do you consider yourself? Again, this is something where I would take that, put it there. Like what belief system do you most identify with? Maybe
Yep. Good.
something like that. Um, click save. Oh, and then the other thing, I would make this radio button as well. There you go.
Nice. Thank you so much. I'll
And then the
change
same
the
thing
rest.
here, right? Like,
Yeah,
what is
I'll
your most?
change the rest. I got it.
Yeah, exactly. Cool.
Look at this,
Okay,
getting some
perfect.
free copy consulting as well.
All right. So next question is also from Irina. Irina's on fire today. Form report, header, footer, etc. What is it for? Scripts. What is this page for? Okay, so form report. Form report is it's a long ignored feature of Obvio. We haven't made any significant changes to this particular feature since we released it almost 2 years ago. But essentially what it is a way for you to give your attendees the ability to download a PDF that includes the answers of forms that they have submitted on the dashboard. And it's very rudimentary. You can add multiple forms to the download form report feature. So you could have them, you could, let's say as an example, you have somebody or you have an event where you're going to have them answer 10 different questions over the course of the event, and you want them to be able to see all of those questions in one place. So you would come to form reports, you would add the multiple forms to form reports. And seeing as I know you have forms, it's under, is it under design? Yeah, form report. Okay, so you would click add form and you would add, please fill out this short survey. And then if you had another one, like if you had multiple questions or multiple forms, you could add multiple forms here. Then you would say you could add a header image color, or sorry, a header image background, or you can not just say your answers from the event forms, something like that. That's what the header is for. So you have a header to the top of your PDF. You could click edit body, and what this allows you to do is change the background color, or possibly upload an image to the background. I tend to leave that one alone. And then edit footer is like if you wanted to put a copyright statement down at the bottom, right? Like copyright Irina Baker 2024 or something like that. So now that would go at the bottom of the PDF. Now, there's also edit body, which is, again, you can modify the background color. So if you wanted to have a black PDF with white text, you could do that. And then what you do is on the dashboard, you create a button, and I'm just going to duplicate this button for now. And you link it to the download report page in under links, right? From the drop down, you say download report. And when an attendee clicks on that particular button that is linked to the download report page, it will then download a PDF of all of the questions and answers that they have submitted up until that time. Again, it's not terribly sexy. It doesn't really allow you to do a whole lot of customization to the forms. There's a few things that I want to change about it, but not a lot of people use it, possibly because it's not very sexy. But it serves a pretty specific purpose fairly well. So there you go. All right. Next question. Actually, the next three questions, guys, are all from Irina. So we're going to keep going with Irina. Love it. But the rest of you, if you have questions, you should post them. You should submit them.
What
All
about
right.
scripts? You said the forms, reports, but what about scripts was the second half of
Oh,
my
the
that
second part of
question.
that. Yeah. So scripts are a way for you to add third-party JavaScript script from another platform onto specific pages on the platform. So reasons you may want to do that, if you want to add Google Analytics to the page, or if you are running ads and you want to add a Facebook pixel to the page, you can do that with scripts. If you want to integrate with a third-party chat tool like Live Chat or Zendesk, they usually have an embed code that requires JavaScript. So the scripts tool allows you to take that script and embed it on all pages on the dashboard or on specific pages. So that's what scripts are for.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, next question. When I'm in Obvio with a group, often my PC gets black and then the entire Zoom gallery freezes for me, but not for the attendees. I must reboot my PC, leave the meeting, and start a new meeting for everyone. It never happens when I'm on my own Zoom one-to-one. I know it's not Obvio's fault. Thank you for that. Any suggestions on what could be done with the PC? And I'm guessing the answer you're not looking for is sell it and buy a Macintosh.
Oh no, when I was typing it, I was thinking you would say, both of you would say, throw it away. I knew that.
Yeah, I probably would say that. I wouldn't say throw it away, actually. Somebody will buy it. It's
I
worth
love my
something to someone.
PC.
It'll hold the door open really well. Like it'll be great for that. Like you could prop up a table with it if it's wonky. You can stick that under. No, look,
So,
I would check. I
yeah.
would check your gallery view. It sounds like one thing. How many people are you seeing on the gallery view when this happens? Is there more than 25 people that you?
No, smaller. No, I work with small
Okay.
groups. But it is always a group. It's not one-on-one, it's more.
And if you were ever change, if you changed it to active speaker, if you went to speaker mode instead of gallery view?
Well, I have both. I have gallery view on my TV screen and I have active speaker because it's recording and it's just regular class or event or class. It happens periodically, pretty often.
So you run dual screen off of the PC and dual screen in Zoom. So you're seeing two views out of Zoom.
And I have two TV monitors, one for chat, one for gallery. Then I have Atom. I have two computers, and this one crashes.
It sounds to me like the computer's just not handling it. Like the graphics card is just not coping with it, and that's why it would go black. And it'd just be like, this is too hard. It's working too hard. So one thing that you can do is go back to one screen, and see if that works okay. You can totally use another computer that would have the gallery view, and so another device, an iPad or something else, could be showing you the gallery view or the active speaker on another monitor, and that way that's just being handled by that. Make sure it's not connected to audio, like have the audio not, otherwise you'll get echo and things. And so that's a separate thing that's just showing the gallery view, and then you have yours just doing the speaker. But if your computer's struggling to do that, it probably is getting a little old.
No, I recently bought it and I got a lot of memory and I don't save anything on it. I save on a hard drive. I mean, separate external.
Something else is wrong then.
Yeah.
Something else is wrong. I would upgrade to Zoom version 6. The latest version only came out a couple of days ago, and try it again and see what the deal is there. But there is an option that should already be enabled, which in Zoom, which is about graphics support. I think it's in video, and then there's an advanced option, and it'll say use hardware acceleration. you could have a look at those settings under video, and then right down the bottom, advanced. This is all in Zoom. I just make sure that either that's enabled, or if it is enabled, turn it off and see if that fixes it. So you can have a play with that.
Okay, thank you. I know it's a long shot, but I had to ask.
No, I hope you can sort it out. That sounds very frustrating. Right.
There is
Do you want me
another
to read
question
This
of
next
mine.
one is for you, Grant. I'm really excited
Oh.
about this one. So Irina, who's on a roll, like I said, love it. Irina has been making her videos or her recordings in Obvio, meaning she's been recording in Zoom to the cloud. And Grant mentioned that I should be making videos differently. I have a Panasonic Lumix camera and an Insta360 camera. What would be a better way to make videos? Do I need a memory card for Lumix to make videos, or could I just stream videos from Lumix through ATEM into the PC? I have no clue. What's the easier process?
I just want to note that it's not a question necessarily for me. It's
No,
just
no,
that
that it definitely said Grant. It said I have a question for
I
Grant.
mentioned it before.
I just didn't read that part of it. It said Grant. You guys all saw that,
No,
right?
it wasn't. No.
Somebody mute Arena. Come on, you're not helping me out here, Arena.
Okay, so the context of this, Arena, is that you are opening a Zoom call with only yourself in it and recording videos that way, which is doing a whole bunch of compression and recording on another server in another country, when actually all you want to do is just record locally. And so a way to do that, as you said, you can record it on the card. As long as you have audio going into your camera, then you can record directly onto the camera. And now you'll have really high res, high quality video that you can use. You can do it in a similar way. You could open up, I think Windows has an application called Camera. That must have spent some time working on that name. And you can record.
They probably workshopped it. They probably workshopped it. You know, there was it's definitely a
Bill Gates. Bill
Yeah.
Gates had his hand in it.
Yeah, 100%.
What about camera? And you can record in that, and that's kind of using the same workflow that you use to get into Zoom, except that you're just recording it locally on the computer, and that would also be less compressed than it would be going into Zoom. So, but I would just say, what you're doing is not broken, and you have a system and it's working. I would just do a little test and compare the end result, and I think you would find the end result would be doing it locally and then uploading that to wherever you're uploading your videos to host them. You'll see a better quality at the end of the day. So it's worth just doing that little test. And if you don't really see a distinguishable difference, then keep doing the Zoom thing that you're happy with and move on.
I figured Obvio has an enterprise level, so it's high quality. That's why I was doing it. It's easy. Turn on Obvio, do the recording, and then download.
Sure. Yeah. Look, and we are constantly impressed with what Zoom can do over these connections. And yes, we do have full HD video that's going through, but it's sending at about 3 or 4 megabit per second, and your camera might record in like 20 or 30 or 40. Yeah, and 4K. Yeah, can totally do it in 4K. And Zoom is designed, it compromises to try to get as real time a communication as possible. The more it has to compress, the longer it takes, the more latency there is between the discussion. And so they find this compromise, good quality video, compressed a lot to be able to get a low latent discussion going. And that's what Zoom do very well. And so that's all of that is unnecessary. If you just want to record a high quality video, then do it in 4K. You can totally do that and upload it to YouTube, and you'll have Irina now in 4K.
Okay, thank you so much for all the questions. I think they're all over. But I wanted to say, Grant, you mentioned that button when attendee in Obvio, there is a button where we go. So if you go to attendee and then you click on any attendee, and then you said you added that button that you can go directly into dashboard for that particular attendee. You were laughing and saying, thank you very much. I mean, you're welcome, you said. That's a great button. I never known that it was there. Now I'm using it all the time because it's very good to click the button, go to that person's dashboard and see what's going on. So I really appreciate it. So good you said it. I'm done.
You're very
Thank you
welcome.
for my TED Talk.
We've actually internally
welcome.
we've taken that to call we call it the Whitehead approach.
Whitehead.
And yeah, Grant's
Listen,
signature
people,
is
all
over
until
the attendees tab page for sure, 100%.
Until I suggested it, like people were just slaving over having to press the copy button, open new tab, paste, and I mean that's
hey, don't
just
forget press
three
enter.
unnecessary steps.
Don't forget press enter. I mean, come on now. Without the enter key,
those times.
you're just stuck there. You're just stuck there looking at an empty browser with nothing but a URL in the address bar.
That was one that Blue was like reluctantly, yeah, whatever. Put Grant's little button in there. That's fine.
I use it every day too, Irina.
There we go.
Seriously, it's so good. It's convenient.
You're welcome,
you click
everyone.
and you're there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're cutting edge here. Cutting edge.
Cutting edge. Thank you.
Cutting edge. All right, Grant, you're on a roll with Irina. The difference in Obvio tags created and checked in. Created is when they first got onto the dashboard. Checked in is if they went through the check-in process. If check-in is disabled, then no check-in tag. Great questions. I'll take it really quickly. So, not quite. The created tag is applied as soon as the attendee is created inside of Obvio. So if you are, remind me which, are you Keep? Do you use Keep or what do you use?
No, Active Campaign.
Okay. So when you add the attendee tag in Active Campaign says to Obvio, hey, Blue Melnick is an attendee in your event. Obvio says, thanks a lot. Let me create him in Obvio in the event. Now it says to Active Campaign, hey, Active Campaign, here's Blue's login URL. Please store it in the field, blah, 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 blah. And when you're done storing that record, please, or that login URL, please tag him as attendee created. That's when that happens. It's early on in the process. The checked in tag happens at the point where the attendee sees the dashboard for the first time. So if you have tech check enabled, it'll be after they go through tech check. If you have tech check disabled, it will be when they load the dashboard for the first time. So your attendees who go to the dashboard will all get the checked in tag, regardless of whether or not the tech check step is enabled.
That's what I needed to know. Thank you. That's great. Mm-hmm.
You are welcome.
Okay. In that page, when you integrate with, let's say, Active Campaign, I did again integration today with this new event. And the first one is the tag, new tag or created tag to import an attendee. The second one is the field. Is it okay to make both of them tag and the field the same?
The same name?
Uh-huh.
Sure. As long as you're okay with it.
Will it distinguish between field and the name? Because the second one is for URL to send people the link magically.
Yeah, because one is the name of a tag and the other is the name of a field. So they're two different things in Active Campaign. They technically can both be the same.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks.
You are welcome. All right. Is Heather Havenwood here? I don't see her, but maybe she's watching the YouTube stream. Okay, so Heather asked, I am looking at aevent.com to add on for 2 clients. When I looked at the help docs, it looks like it's only for enterprise. Is it possible to add the capability of webhooks on one event for founders' accounts? Heather. Okay, so first off, no. The answer to your question is no, it's not possible. The webhooks feature inside of Obvio is an enterprise-only feature. That's because most people don't need to send custom webhooks to a specific place, right? Most people are able to use the various integration tools that we have built, plus Zapier, in order to do what they need to do. So for a event, you can technically use a event with any level of Obvio. Having enterprise, though, allows you to set up a webhook for when your attendees join or leave Zoom and send that information to a event. A event can then use that information through some of its integrated follow-up mechanisms that it has. So if you want to use that particular part of the A event integration, you have to have enterprise. But if all you want to do is use A event to log into Zoom on an Obvio event and press play on video, as long as you're okay with A event not having the tracking and having that information only live in Obvio, then you do not need enterprise. Although we are happy to upgrade you to enterprise if you wish. All right. Marley has a question. Marley was here earlier. Is she still here? I don't see her. Oh, no, she's not. No, she's not. All right. Marley's question, is there any way to download attendee report with viewer minutes for an event that happened in May 2022? Probably not.
Yeah, I was thinking not.
Yep. That data didn't exist in Obvio in May of 22. So yeah, unfortunately, that data, the minutes data you're talking about, only started existing after, I think it was like October 17th of last year. Esther.
Marley woke up this morning and was like, "Oh, I forgot to download that thing 2 years ago."
That's awesome. All right. Esther has a question. If we have a contact list on Keep, for instance, how do we use Obvio to do email marketing? So first off, Esther, great question. Second, you don't. Obvio is not intended to be used for marketing your event. It's intended to be used to email people who have already raised their hand and said, yes, I want to come to your event. So what you should do is you should email your if you're using Keep as an example, you should email your prospects through Keep, have them raise their hand and say, yes, I want to come to your event, and then get them into Obvio. And then once they're in Obvio, you can continue to email them from Keep, or you can use the broadcast feature inside of Obvio to email existing attendees. But the broadcast system, the communication system, is not intended and really not supposed to be used for email marketing. Richard asked, how can I resize my banner / header image? Because of the date time of my 3rd day is cut off on the bottom. All right. So first off, what I would say to you, Richard, is you should 100% not include any information that your attendees must see in the banner. Okay. And the reason for that is because everybody has a different size screen, right? And when the screen resizes, the image that is the background image, which is what you're using, will scale to fit the window that it's on. When it does that, you will see what you're seeing right now, which is a portion of that background image will get cut off, right? And it's doing that by design because it's scaling, right? It's a responsive design, so the image is scaled and in some cases cropped to fit appropriately. Something you could potentially do is you could put that text in the logo image. So the logo image also scales up and down in the header. And I assume you're talking about either classic or possibly the lefty template, but that's probably one of the two templates you're talking about here. There's an option to upload a logo image in that same header area. So you can have a background image and a logo image that sits over top of it. The logo image will also scale up and down, but it will never crop. So if you really want to include the text in that area, you could potentially include it in a logo image if you wanted to. But I would highly recommend that you test what that looks like on phones, on tablets, and on a PC, just to make sure that the text doesn't get too small. All right. Great question, though. Robin, I'm wondering if you can tell me how my sound is and if you think I need an external microphone. Sure.
Super good question. So this
Yes,
is
you do.
the distance that I'm going to be from my MacBook when I do my event. And I didn't know if it sounded okay or not, or if I needed to get an external microphone.
It sounds surprisingly good, given how far away you are from your Mac.
So for now,
your microphone.
Your microphone, yeah. Sorry, I was like, given how far away you are from your microphone, it seems surprisingly good. Robin, just out of curiosity, is that one of the new 14-inch MacBook Pros or 16-inch MacBook Pros, or what is it?
This is the bare minimum MacBook Air that you said to buy that will be okay for the video and the sound. So
when like a new MacBook Air, within the last couple of years or from a couple of years ago?
I mean, I just bought it after the last tech lab, we did in my first year. I don't know what it is, to be honest.
When the MacBook is closed, is it the same thickness all the way across, or is it a little bit thinner on one side?
No, I think it's the same.
Yeah, that sounds like it's the M2, and it's a surprisingly good. Irina, do you hear that? Does that make you think
yes.
maybe I should get a Mac instead of this PC thing that I'm struggling with?
The video is shockingly better than, I mean, I don't like Apple because I just don't know how the hell to use it, but I use it for the video.
You're breaking up, Robin. We're gonna have to disconnect you. Sorry.
But I use it for the video, and then I run all the other stuff off of my PC because I know how to open everything there. But yeah, the video is shockingly much better than anything. So I was just wondering about the sound, and I can't test it myself. So if it sounds okay.
Yeah, it sounds fine. And Grant, why don't you tell her how to test her sound so she can hear it?
Well, yeah. Yes. I have really strong opinion about this. And that is that there's a few things that are happening. The sound is actually quite good. I agree. But I'll tell you something, there's two things that I think of when I listen to the sound. One is that there is a tendency for you to speak louder than you do when you have a closer microphone. And there's something about how people speak. So if I could only talk about one thing to improve someone's setup, it is audio. Because this is how people are connecting with you. And you know this because you can watch terrible YouTube videos with the camera shaky and all terrible, but if their audio is clear, you will listen to it. But if the opposite is true, it doesn't matter how good it looks, if the audio is bad, you'll disconnect, right? And so there's two things that are happening because you are at a further distance. What happens is you naturally speak louder because it's just automatic for us. The further back that you are from seeing the people, the more you raise your voice. And so there is something cognitive about why is this person speaking so loudly to me? Like they feel like they're kind of shouting a little bit at me. And dynamics in your presentation are really important because you want to sit at a 5 out of 10 when you're generally presenting so that you have somewhere to go. You have somewhere to go when you're talking more emotional and you come down a little bit and you're able to connect with people in that way. And you want to be able to say, isn't that a great point, everyone? Are you with me? Are you with me? And the more that you do that from the distance that you're at, the more bounce we get in the room. So the louder that you are, the more your voice is bouncing off the wall behind it, and we start getting echo and it sounds distant. And this is one of the things that I feel strongly about because I know that this is a thing where this is not what you think, it's not what your attendees think, it's what they feel.
Right.
And so when you said, is my audio okay? We have lots of nods around and everyone's saying, yeah, it sounds fine. But what do we feel? And that's the question. When you hear my voice, what do you feel? And I think I've got a $1,000 microphone right in front of me, right? It's a large diaphragm. It's
bragging.
And it sounds closer, right? So that when I was doing the dynamics before, you could hear that, and you feel like I'm close talking to you. And there is something about, and this is what what people say is I feel like I'm sitting right in front of you with you.
You do.
But when the further back, I feel like I'm a little distant, even though I see you close. I feel like I'm a little further away, and you're needing to throw your voice across the room, in order for me to hear. And that, if there's anything that contributes to Zoom fatigue more than anything else, it's sound. And
Okay.
so I honestly, your sound is like 7 out of 10. But I would always be like, I want to get my sound to 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10
No, yours
because it'll
sounds.
make it.
Yeah, that's why I didn't even know you were using a microphone. So like this would be my voice.
Is that because of how it sounds or because you didn't see it?
No, because he sounds really good. I mean, you do as well. You sound like your volume is very loud, but it obviously is the
But
microphone.
not shouting. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
This would be, if someone was sitting next to me, this would be the level I would be speaking at. But I'm sitting also. And when I do my presentation, I'm going to be standing, and I just normally
Yeah.
talk louder when I'm
Yeah.
standing. So I
Yes,
didn't
you do.
know if, but I mean, I
Would you
really
be
like.
standing in that location?
Yes, I'll be this far
Okay.
away from the
Okay.
computer, but I'll be standing. So I
Yeah.
don't know. Like, yeah, you both sound great.
And look, I just used your question as a reason to jump on my soapbox, right? Because I,
No, no,
I really like talking about it. Um,
no, that's a great point with the sound. And so if I had, so you said this loudness is a 7. Okay.
Yeah, no, sorry, what I was saying before is I think the sound quality that you're outputting is like a 7 out of 10. You know what I
Okay.
mean? I think it's great.
But the
Yeah,
emotion, not 7.
yeah. When you come down a little bit, I think it sounds even better, right? And because everyone is sitting right in front of you.
Right.
And and I often find it with people that are talking into a laptop, that they talk louder naturally. They're trying to, it's just something that happens, I hear, and it just is fatiguing. It's just like
Even on
talking so loud.
speakerphone, I'm like, I feel like
Yeah.
I'm shouting at everybody, and I hate it because it's fatiguing
Yes.
me to have
Yes.
like, but
It's a
so
great example.
Yeah.
Those
So
microphones are really powerful. You don't have to speak loud. You can
yeah.
have a speakerphone sitting there and just speak very softly and it will work really well. But there's something about it. We feel like we've got to push our voice into it. And sometimes we do that with computers as well, where we're really trying to get it in there.
So after I get a couple of paying students, I can get $1,000 microphone. But right
There you
now,
go.
I don't want to put my money there.
I
So
no,
if I get something else that's much, much less expensive, would it be a better quality than what I have right now? Or if I get a crappy microphone, is it just not going to do me any good?
do you, do you know what is directly behind the your computer? Is there another just a blank wall?
Um, like my computer right now is probably almost in the middle of the room. It's not a very
Okay.
big room.
Hmm.
Uh, but I'm gonna turn my no, it'll probably stay right here. But I mean, could I get some like drop down sound
Hmm.
panels
Hmm. You can
and
do
hang?
all sorts, and it would make a difference. It'll sound softer. Um, this is really subjective, and Blue can have a totally different perspective on this. Um, what's the flooring? Is that a hard floor or it is
Carpet.
carpet? Okay. So one thing that can make a difference is rather than speaking directly into a flat wall behind the computer, is speaking into the corner or just slightly. And so when you just rearrange it slightly, what happens is that the sound is not bouncing directly off, but it's being diverted, and
Mhm.
then that's when you get less reflections. But soft furnishings, yep, blankets, things that you can get. Moving blankets is one thing people do. They hang moving blankets up on the wall, and now it feels softer. But I'm passionate about this too because I think the environment that you're in is really important to how you present,
Mhm.
and it needs to feel like you're in a really comfortable environment. And when you're in an echoey environment, it's not as comfortable. When you're in an environment where it feels cozy, and the temperature's just right, and you don't have lots of bouncing around of your own voice, and the speakers that you're hearing, things like that. It's more comfortable when you present better. It's all of these little things that we think of that actually do make a big difference to how you present, how you host.
I have it's supposed to be a bedroom, but it actually has a cathedral ceiling. So
Uh-huh.
I was thinking about if I got some sort of sound panels and just hang them down from the ceiling. I had seen something on TV where they had just maybe like a 25-inch long board and they hung it above the desk. They were setting up a social media room. I don't know if that's actually effective or something that would help.
I would if I was only going to do one thing, I would put some sort of blanket immediately behind your computer. And I think that would cut it down more than doing something up high,
Gotcha.
because
Okay.
it's about the reflections. Because your voice is sending out across. Sometimes you're getting reflections off the screen itself. And so
Yeah.
the sound is bouncing, then it bounces off the wall behind you, and then it comes back into the mic. And that's what happens. So when you can have something that captures the sound, absorbs the sound rather than reflect it, is when you start getting less echo in the room.
So if
This is very subtle. It's very
I
subtle.
closer to the wall, stand closer to the wall so that I'm bringing the computer closer to the wall. Would that be better?
Uh,
If
Not
I
necessarily.
are okay. So I just
Yeah.
need something soft and cozy behind the computer.
Yep.
Grant, would you say like, go to Home Depot, buy a couple of like manual clamps and a moving blanket and a rolling, um
Yeah.
what's the word I'm looking for? Like a clothing rack, and just kind of
Clothing rack.
just
Yep.
drape it over top of that and clip it and like kind of roll it in place when you're ready, and when you're done, roll it
Mhm.
out of the way, Robin. Something like that where it just is capturing it. You're not going to want it there the whole time because it's ugly, but
Because I have two 55-inch TVs I was going to put behind the computer on the wall. So I should just hang them higher then, I guess, because I won't be able to see them if there's.
I don't know. You want your eye, you don't want your eyes like this, right?
Yeah,
Where you're,
I was
you
going to
know,
have the computer like kind of in the middle so that I'm looking like this, and hopefully it doesn't look too weird.
it's a
But
balance. All of this stuff is a balance and a compromise of all the different things, right? And so if you were to say to me, what's more important, cutting down a little bit of echo or keeping my eye line? And I would say keeping your eye line, right?
okay,
And so what you would find is having the computer a little bit closer and then having the TVs back further means that your eye line is not far from where the camera is and you can see more of the screen without having to, the closer it is, the more you have to, scan across the screen, right?
sure.
Further back it is, the more of the screen you see without having to move your eyes very much.
Okay,
Um,
I'll play with
so,
it and I will
yeah,
ask for test
yeah, we'll
number
do
two,
it again.
see what happens.
We're
Thanks. That
in
was
the
helpful.
in the group that Blue and I met, called Office Hours. We have a thing called ruthless reviews, and that's where you just say, okay, how's my sound, and then people can just kind of speak freely and they can pick it apart and they can pick apart the 1%, and that's often what we're doing, and
Helpful.
that's basically what I was doing here. But I
I
I,
did
I
say
think
that I'm very happy I bought the MacBook, even though I don't know how to use it and I don't like it because like the quality of the picture is so good compared to what I had. Yeah.
it's
Thank you.
great, and you'll do a great event. You really will. It'll be awesome. So all the best with
And
that.
lean into that 20-hour battery life. You'll grow to love the Mac.
I mean, if I knew how to use it, I'm sure I would like it better, but
We spend most of our day in a browser. Like
I was going to say, open a
the
browser.
same on
browser.
both devices. Like Chrome is Chrome on a Windows PC and on a Macintosh.
Right, but if you can find Chrome, like I don't even know how to open the windows. Like I can't find things. So I mean, with a few basic lessons, I'm sure I'll feel differently.
I'm going to tell you, go to youtube.com and say how to switch from Windows to a Mac or something along those lines. Beginner's guide to a Macintosh for a Windows user, and something along those lines. And watch 2 videos, and everything that you're looking for will be there.
Okay, thank you. That's like crazy helpful because I have taken this thing out with me to a coffee shop thinking I'm going to get things done, and I'm like, I don't know how to make it bigger. I can't do anything. Like,
Grant, did I ever tell you about like when I switched to a Mac and like I was trying to uninstall an application on the Macintosh and I just couldn't figure it out, right? I'm looking for a control panel and like add remove programs.
Add remove, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, how the heck do there's no uninstall? And finally I found it was like, oh, I just drag the application to the trash. Okay. Got it.
That uninstalls it.
Yeah, but you would have never thought to do that, right?
No, I know, because from a Windows PC, there's like 17 steps to uninstall an application. And then even then, it doesn't always actually uninstall the application, although that's true on a Mac these days as well. All right, moving on. Next topic. Bez asks you, Grant. I love this question as well. Let's get rid of.
Ooh.
Yep.
Oh, look at that.
Sorry, my bad. I forgot about my.
That's how long we were talking for.
Don't tech your own show. Yeah, exactly. Bez asks, can you diagram the tech setup you were just talking to Rena about? Now, unfortunately, he wrote that question 40 minutes ago, and I don't remember what we were talking about.
I can remember. I can remember. So she had a screen that went dark, and so you were talking about the gallery, the speaker, and something else. And so yeah, if you could just on a napkin, or if you have a whiteboard there, just sort of like sketch something so Can register my brain.
If you'll just grab a Sharpie and
I-
draw
I-
on your
I-
draw on your computer exactly how this is supposed to look, that would be awesome.
Yes.
All I was suggesting there, and yeah, and Blue said it was 40 minutes ago, so my opinion has already changed.
Well, that's okay. That means it has evolved and improved.
That's right. No, all I was suggesting is rather than one computer outputting multiple displays and of particularly Zoom running on multiple displays where it's got a gallery view on one, there's an option in Zoom to enable dual screen, right? And it will give you an extra window, and you can move that window around. And so now you've got your original window and you've got a new window, and the new window will be like active speaker, and you can make that big and whatever. I think what might be happening with Arena is just the computer's struggling for whatever reason that it's not handling that very well. And so one suggestion I was saying is, why don't you relieve your computer, your main computer, of creating the gallery view, for example. So you could get another device, laptop, iPad, whatever it is, join the meeting, the same meeting, and put the gallery view on it. And now you've just got a gallery view and it's just sitting somewhere. There's an option in Zoom to leave audio. It's called leave computer audio. What that does is it disconnects you from the sound of the Zoom meeting altogether. So now you're not sending audio in and you're not receiving audio at all. It's just showing you the gallery view.
Okay.
And when you do that on that device, you'll have no problems with, the microphone turning on or echoing coming, you're hearing yourself back because it's another, a separate connection. It's disconnected from audio, and now you can just see the gallery view. And generally, it'll be in sync. Like it'll be pretty close to being in sync with where you're hearing it from your original computer, but you're seeing it on another computer, and it'll work fine.
So the main PC handles the speaker view, the other device handles the gallery view, and you leave computer audio on the second device.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And you could do it vice versa if you wanted to, where you could have the active speaker on that second computer and have gallery view on the main computer. Like you can just test that and see what you prefer.
Okay.
So I will just say too that in version 6, it's called Zoom Workplace now, is what the application that we're using. Zoom Workplace version 6 now has a new view. There's speaker view, there's gallery view, and then there's another view that's now called multi-speaker. And
what was it called again?
Called multi-speaker.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. And what that does is a gallery view, but then an automatic kind of active speaker. It's kind of something in between. And it sort of automatically pins people that are speaking. And so at the moment, I'm looking at you. I've got a gallery view, and on top, I've got Bez nice and big. And if someone else started talking, like if Blue started talking, I'd then see Blue come up as same size as Bez. So it's actually a combination. It could be a really good view that people will use. It's a good combination in between gallery views, still being able to see people, but also seeing who's talking at the same time. So that's in the latest version of Zoom.
Is that called Spotlight?
No, Spotlight is when you are saying, I want everyone to see this no matter what's happening. No matter who's talking, I want to spotlight this thing. And that's where a host or a co-host, there you go. So Blue, because of how egocentric he is, chose to demonstrate this with himself and not with me or anyone else.
Okay, I did not do that. That was not me.
I'm going to make me big is what he did.
I did not.
So the Spotlight does that and pushes it out to everyone else. Pin is you locally on that machine only. You can pin someone and make them big, and it stays there whether they're talking or not. So pin is always local. Spotlight is everybody.
Okay.
And multi-speaker is a new one that's kind of a cross between gallery view and speaker.
Is that activated by itself? It's automatic as speakers start to talk. They all get bumped into.
When you choose it in the view option and you hit multi-speaker, then yes, it just starts. It starts kind of adding people as they're talking. It's very cool.
Oh, I see.
Here we go. Now you can see it.
Okay, and
I'll let Blue demo it.
Yeah. And then I had a follow-up question to that Blue can probably answer for me. And that was we were talking about audio and what are the Zoom settings we need to turn off and on if we're going to like have somebody perform a musical piece so that we can get the optimum, because I'm ready to write it down because I don't want to forget it this time.
Yeah, no problem. So what you're asking about is original sound for it's basically original sound for musicians. So in the audio, if you go into Zoom settings and you go to the audio tab under audio profile, there's something that says original sound for musicians. And you want to turn that on. And then there's 3 settings that you can play with underneath that. One is high fidelity music mode, which I personally have turned on. The other is echo cancellation, which I have turned on. But if I was going to be like, if the person who's going to be playing music doesn't have a speaker that allows him to, like an open speaker that allows him to hear people in Zoom, then you can turn echo cancellation off. But if he has an open speaker like I do, like I have a speaker on my desk that when you guys talk, I just hear you. I don't have it in an earpiece. I need to leave echo cancellation on. Otherwise, the speaker is picked up by my microphone and it loops back in. So I leave echo cancellation turned on. And then stereo audio. And for me, we tend to leave that one off. But if stereo is important to you, you can turn that on.
Okay.
There's another feature in there where you're looking at it and it'll say live performance audio. That is generally only needed if you're going to have, I think it's up to 6, but if you're going to have people playing music at different locations inside of Zoom. That's the only reason that you need to turn that on. Just original sound for musicians should work perfectly fine.
So you can actually do that in Zoom?
They say you can. I've never done it, but I also don't play music.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, in the early days, I heard it was impossible.
It was impossible because of the delay. But they enabled this. I feel like this option showed up about 6 months or so ago. And essentially for a limited number of people, again, like I said, it's not everybody in the Zoom meeting, but a limited number of people can have really, really, really low latency latency audio and high quality. And from what I've heard, it works very well for people in multiple locations to be able to play music together. But when I say from what I've heard, I've not actually heard it.
Okay. No, I didn't even know I had that capability because I don't think anybody's brave enough to try that because it's considered impossible, you know.
Well, I think what happened is it went just so horribly poorly during the pandemic that when Zoom finally released it, people were no longer interested in doing this. Now, it's possible that there are some people who are doing it, but I've not seen it done.
Well, it's nice to know the capabilities there because that's a different use case that I didn't even know I could apply to. So, yeah, because I would love to do like a maybe like a fundraiser for my Make-A-Wish walk this coming year. Maybe I'll do do an acapella thing and see if it works. And if it
Worth
doesn't,
trying. Worth trying.
anyways,
So-
Just do it in the same Zoom room, but in a Zoom room, but do it in rooms really close to each other. So if it doesn't work, you can all just walk into the same room and do it.
That's right.
we'll just run an experiment. If it doesn't work, we'll go to something else.
We call it science experiments. I ran 20 Zoom rooms on a single meeting on a single computer the other day. It was a science experiment.
How did it go?
It went very well.
So,
I mean, it was a $4,000 Mac Studio, but it went very well.
Oh, I thought it was like a beefed up gaming PC.
Nah.
Anyway, go ahead.
There's
Sorry.
a physics problem that you have still with the latency that you have between locations, right? So obviously if you have someone physically closer that's in the same city as you, then the latency is less than someone that's in another country than you. And so they've tried to build something with low latency. The live performance mode, which is different to just original sound for musicians. Live performance mode just takes out any processing in the computer that it's doing and kind of lowers that latency as much as possible to try to get it to work. And where it does work is in particular music types that can be a little fluid on the tempo in how it locks in. Acapella, I mix an acapella band, and they find it really difficult, right? Because they're locking into each other, and it just doesn't quite work the same way. But there's some other systems out there other than Zoom that have got the latency down sort of as low as possible. And I've heard some really cool performances, some jazz performances online that were super cool. And so it's really impressive when you see it.
Wow.
But yeah, not quite so much in Zoom, but yeah.
I mean, that's not my business, but I would be interested if you shared a list of those pieces of equipment. That way, if somebody were interested, I know some performers, I could say, well, here's a list of equipment you'll need, and it'll probably cost you X, and they'll either do it or not. So, but thank you. This was very helpful, by the way. Because you know what? Music makes a meeting really, it does something. It just adds an element that, especially if you're going to end with a nice piece, or, you know, from a business standpoint, whether it's at the top or at the end or even in the middle.
Big difference.
Yeah, it really, it just stands out. And if you're doing a musical program, because they used to run on Clubhouse whole productions. This theater group run during, like, when something happened in Texas, their power went out. They did a theater performance, and it didn't sound bad. It actually was pretty decent. So, but you know, anyways. So, thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Next question is from David Garrett. And David asks, can the Zoom chat preferences be set to exclusively allow participants to post messages to the host, but those messages will not be visible to other participants? So the answer to that question is, I believe it is. And in fact, if you were to post something in the chat right now, I have changed the settings, at least I think I have, so that participants can only chat with hosts and co-hosts. You can't actually chat with each other. Diana seems sad about that. Yeah, it's just under the Zoom chat settings, which they have moved into the chat window under 3 dots, top right-hand corner of the chat window. There are 4 options. Participants can chat with no one, hosts and co-hosts, everyone, and then everyone and anyone directly. So what that means, that last one means they can chat with everyone, but they can also send DMs amongst themselves. And then when it says just everyone, they can chat with everyone, but they can only send DMs to hosts and co-hosts. And then hosts and co-hosts is just hosts and co-hosts, and then no one. So there you go. Totally doable. Great question. Thank you.
So that preference is in the host's preference in when you're setting up your broadcast or your.
When you're
where do I locate that?
So once you're in Zoom as the host, like once you've gone into the meeting from Obvio,
or co-host.
Or co-host, you
Yeah.
go into the chat window, and there's 3 dots, and you can find it there.
Okay, so by chat window you mean the
chat,
host.
the chat window right here, this guy here.
Gotcha.
Do you see that?
Gotcha.
So, and then in this, my screen's pretty big, so I don't know if you can see this, but like when you click on the 3 dots, there's those options right there.
Just took a screenshot. Thank you.
Cool. You're welcome. And this is version 6, so the version 5.17.1 or whatever that was out before this looks slightly different, but not by much. Okay. Muddy asks, can you check what your own audio sounds like in Zoom? He apparently is asking for a friend. Which makes me think he is friends with Robin. Grant, you want to walk us through that?
There's a few different ways of doing it. There's an option in the audio menu. You can hit the up arrow and there's a test speaker and microphone. Now that's particularly helpful when you have multiple microphones and multiple speakers because it'll test the right one for you. And when you test the microphone, it'll record for 5 seconds or so and then it plays it back to you and you can hear what that sounds like. There's also another option when you go into the settings. There's a test speaker, which I use all the time. Sounds like this. That's very handy to make sure your speakers are working. But there's another button there called test mic. And so you can click that and it'll record and then it'll play it back to you. 2 more options just to make it more complex. You can go at any time, you can go to zoom.us/test and that will take you into a meeting that will automatically start the test sound. And so you can test your microphone and audio setting. And once you've finished that test, it'll close the meeting and that's it. So zoom.us/test. And then the final thing, particularly with Obvio, is that you've got unlimited cloud recording. There's no reason why you can't just start a meeting and go into it, make sure it's recording and do a decent test, read a slab of text or, actually do some talking for a while and then stop it. In a few minutes, that recording will become available and you can download the recording or listen to the recording and see exactly how that sounded when you went into Zoom. So that's some good tests to do. Muddy, I get the approval from Muddy. Thank you, mate.
Good job. Thank you. All right. Maria asked, this may be a basic question, but how do we create tags and assign tags to attendees? Thank you. First off, actually not a basic question. This is what I would say is, I don't want to call it an advanced level move, but definitely a solidly intermediate level move. So generally speaking, the answer to this question is it depends, unfortunately. It depends primarily on where your attendees are coming from. Are you importing your attendees through like a CSV file? In which case you assign tags to those attendees using the tags column, which I believe is the 4th column, or maybe the 5th column in the import function. And there's a sample CSV file that you can use that we can send you if you're curious. If you are importing your attendees from a service like that we integrate with, like ActiveCampaign, Launchport, Keep, HubSpot, MailChimp, et cetera, most of those services have tags, and you would apply tags in that service. And when you import your attendees into Obvio, the tags come with them. So that's the second way that you would do it. The third way would just be manually. You can go into individual attendees, open them up by clicking on their name, and then in the tags field, typing in the tag you would like to give them, pressing the enter key. That's very, very, very critical. You have to press the enter key so that it turns up as a little blue bubble in the tags field, and then you press save. And that allows you to edit a single attendee's tags. So those are the different ways that you can do it. How we tend to do it with our clients and for us is most of our clients are importing their attendees from one of the different services. So we manage tags in that service. All right. Hopefully that was helpful. Natalie has a question. She has a question about the business phone line setup. Obvio sends texts. Keep, as a CRM, does texts as well and says they set up a business line. What do I purchase? I did not like phone.com experience due to limited texting and was thinking to get a Verizon cell phone line, but with Keep, does it mean that I don't need the phone line as they provide it? Thank you. Natalia, I don't know. Yeah, I really don't actually know the answer to that question. I think your best bet from a Keep perspective is to contact Keep and get clarity from them. We don't actually send texts directly from Keep, so I don't know what their process is, and every service's process is a little bit different. So I would reach out to Keep support and get that question answered from them.
What about Obvio? You got, because there's text enabled something.
Yes,
how does it get?
there is. So when you send a text message from Obvio, it comes from Obvio. So you don't need a phone number for that. You don't need to do anything for that. You just need to import your cell phone numbers for your attendees into Obvio. And then you go into broadcasts. And instead of sending an email, you send an SMS message. There's a small fee associated with SMS messages inside of Obvio. That fee is $1 per broadcast plus 10 cents for international attendees or international cell phone numbers outside of US and Canada, and 2 cents for every phone number inside of US and Canada. So that's the fee associated with the broadcast, which is pretty reasonably priced, I think, and how you do it.
Okay. So while
it's
we're
one
on
way. One
Okay.
way. Yeah, like it's not, there's not chatting, there's no replying to those
Oh,
text
gotcha.
messages from Obvio.
Gotcha. So while we're on the topic of broadcast, and then the email notification gets sent out, is it also through Obvio, or I can set it up to go through my domain and so forth, my email?
Yeah, great question. You cannot set up your emails to go through your domain. What you can do is we allow you to set the from name, so you can display the from as your name. The from email address is always no reply at obv.io, but you can set the reply to email address to be your own. So when somebody receives an email address that comes from the Obvio broadcaster, when they reply to it, it doesn't come to us, it goes to you. So that's how that works.
So then the mailing that you are using, your domain Obvio, is all verified, all of the settings are done in order for the Gmail and Yahoo's to receive based on their change from February of this year?
Yeah, we are doing everything that we can to ensure that we continue to have high deliverability within Obvio. One of the things that we're doing is we don't, and this was a question that Esther asked earlier today, is, how do I upload a contact list and mark it from Obvio? And you can't. So one of the main things that we're doing to ensure our deliverability is keeping Obvio broadcasts as a way to inform your attendees, people who have already raised their hand to say, I want to come, right? That's the only reason that that's the only way that you can, that's the only way that you should be sending emails through Obvio. We also put a whole bunch of limits on it, right? You can't go and send 20 emails a day to every contact that you have in Obvio. There are limits. You can only send emails during your event, and you can send, I believe it's 3 emails per contact record. So if you can actually technically send 20 emails, but each attendee will only receive the first 3. The 17 after that won't be delivered. Okay. And again, doing that because we want to ensure our high deliverability. We spent the first 1.5 to 2 years of the platform being in existence, having the only emails that we send from Obvio being forgot my password emails, or here's your download to like exports and so on and so forth emails, which have incredibly high open rates. So we actually do have a very high open rate because of how we started our reputation building early on. And because of those other things, which is we really limit what you can do inside of the platform from a broadcast perspective. The intention is not for it to be a marketing platform. The intention is for it to be an event platform. So with that being said, Natalia, I said you can only send emails during your event. You can actually send 1 email in the 7 days leading up to your event, and you can send another email in the 7 days after your event. Purpose behind that, the reason we allow those 2 extra emails outside of the emails that are during your event are because, generally speaking, people like to send an email about a week or so beforehand saying, don't forget your event is this week. We can't wait to see you, right? So you can do that. And then the other email that is really, really common is a post-event survey. So after your event, you can go into the platform and send out 1 more email. Thanks for coming to my event. It was great to have you. We just posted a survey on the dashboard. Click here to fill it out. Would love to hear from you, etc. So
excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I don't know what to do with myself now. There are no more questions.
There's no more questions. He's ran out of words.
Can I ask a question then, if there is no?
Sure.
Sorry. So I have to confess I didn't yet watch the webinar, the perfect webinar series, so I'm not caught up yet, up to speed. But I thought we are able to host webinars through Obvio.
You can.
Okay. So if I do webinars through Obvio, does this broadcasting feature rules, do they apply to the attendees of the webinar, or it does?
It does. Yeah, it's the same thing. So remember, we think of an event as a gathering of people in Zoom, right? That's an event. So for us, an event can be a webinar, an event can be a challenge, an event can be an actual event, an event can be a multi-day summit. There's all sorts of different things that qualify as an event inside of Obvio. And a webinar is certainly one of those things.
Gotcha. So then if I have the download, let's say I upload a CSV file for the attendees of the webinar, and then some of the attendees roll into the live event, the login, it will
change.
It will change. Okay.
If you're using the platform the way it's intended, right? And I say that a lot because, as with any platform, you can kind of hack your way through doing something not as intended, right? You can do it a little bit differently. And I know you're a little bit of an engineer, so your mind thinks a little bit differently than most, which is good. There's nothing wrong with that. But how the system is intended is each event that you host has its own unique event inside of Obvio. That event also technically has its own domain. It has its own dashboard. It has its own attendee list. It has its own rules around broadcasts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the good news is you can duplicate events, right? So if you have figured out how to, you have a really nice dashboard design and you're really happy with it, the next time you create an event, you don't have to recreate it from scratch. You can just duplicate the previous event, redate it, like have it for the date of your new event, make a couple of tweaks, and you're off to the races. So, yeah, how it's intended is they sign up for the webinar, you send them to the event that is the webinar. Then once they purchase the ticket to the event, you now send them a link to the other event in Obvio, which is the event.
Gotcha.
Okay.
That makes sense. Thank you.
You are welcome. I still don't see any other questions. Are there any other questions? Does anybody have any other questions? Are we done for the day? 22 minutes early? What? This is unprecedented. Yeah, exactly, Linda. Just mind blown. David's going to ruin it. All right, David, go ahead.
Okay, so again, following on Natalia's question, if we were doing a webinar and doing multiple hosts of that webinar per day, we could just simply create a duplicate set of dashboards for each of those webinars.
Yeah.
And then, we're obviously manually, because, obviously with a event, then you've got the automation. But if we're starting out with this and doing it manually, you can just basically duplicate the dashboard and have a separate dashboard for each
event. You could
hosting of that webinar.
Yeah, I'm going to contradict myself, which Grant and I tend to do on these calls quite often. So if I was hosting a webinar and it was essentially the same webinar, but I was doing it 5 different times, I wouldn't create 5 different dashboards in that particular case. Okay. I would have them all sign up to the same webinar. Something that I would think is important, though, is when they sign up, you tag them in a certain way so that you know that these are the people who are webinar in date 1. These are the people who are webinar date 2. Here are the people who are webinar date 3. The reason for that is when you go into broadcasts, if you're going to send them an email from Obvio and you're sending them an email to webinar 2, you don't want to send everybody who signed up for webinars 1 and 3 the email for webinar 2. Right, so you need to identify those contacts through the use of tags or groups.
Okay, and you're managing those tags in your CRM like Keep?
That's what I would be doing, yes.
Okay.
Yep, you got it.
To add to this question, David's question, but then how about the Obvio email broadcast feature that only allows to send before event, after event? Is it based on the date of the event?
Mm-hmm.
I answered my own question.
You did. I feel like Justin James missed out on something awesome, which is the new form moderation feature. Justin, did you hear about that? Why don't we throw that in the chat for a second?
Missed it.
Because he's asking questions about lower thirds, so I'm guessing he didn't.
I did. I joined like 5 minutes late.
Awesome. Okay, well, this was last week, so, it's even worse. Okay, so Justin, inside of Obvio I think it was last week or maybe the week before, we actually released there's a couple new forms features. So when you go into Obvio and you're in the forms area, if you click on the 3 dots next to your form, there are 2 new options. One's moderation and one is statistics. If you go into moderation, you're going to see a new a new screen that you've not seen before. So there's 3 columns that come in as people submit questions to in our case, our Q&A question. They come into this incoming tab, and then Heather is moving them over to approved, and then moving them over to on deck when they're ready for us to actually answer. Now, the on deck column, actually all 3 of these columns have these. You can run 2 different pages off of each individual column. One is called stage view, and one is called lower third. So stage view, if I were to click on that, is something that's intended to be seen on stage, right? To give this to a speaker, perhaps, or if you, to feedback onto a screen. It is larger format text. You can zoom the text in, you can zoom the text out. If you've given them this link on a phone, they can click the check mark when they've answered it. If they don't want to answer it, they can click the trash icon. That's one view. And then the other view that you have is called lower third. And lower third is exactly what you've been seeing with our lower thirds. It's a way to have a styled version of the top question in each column, or in the column that you're looking at, right? So right now, the lower third is based on Muddy's question about Zoom version 6. Right? So it's right there. But if those were the opposite order and we were to put Muddy's NAB question at the top, then the lower third page is modified to be that. Now on the lower third, you can click the gear and you can do some basic styling. So you can, change it to be a little less wide. You can put it on the left-hand side. You can add a left margin. If I wanted this to be right at the bottom, but full width, I could do that as well. Reduce my border thickness and my border radius. So now I've got a lower third that just goes all the way across the bottom with no gaps. And then what I'm doing here in my setup, because the lower third feature is definitely one that is intended to be used with a switcher or something that can take a video source in and key out the black, right? Key out that background. So once you have styled your lower third, you can then bring it up on screen. And now that lower third is a little bit more styled to what you just saw. So that's the lower third feature that you're seeing us use. And I really, really love it. So speaking of lower thirds, actually, let's answer them in the order they came in. So I'm going to change the order. So Muddy asked, when do you expect Obvio to go to Zoom version 6? Anytime you want. Obvio does not actually control the version you're working on. You do.
Yes. So
you can upgrade to Zoom version 6 anytime you want. I will tell you, here in our studio, I have not moved to it yet. It's a pretty major release with a lot of changes, and I want to play with it a little bit first. And we have some reasons to perhaps not rush to go into it. Like as an example, the slight movement of gallery tiles, which is going to cause probably some havoc in my studio. And have me need to spend a couple of hours in front of a computer remapping things, but whatever, I'll get to that eventually. So yeah, Zoom version 6 you can dive into anytime you want.
You could just move to tiles instead.
Yeah.
That's the thing, like tiles is pretty amazing. Yeah, I'm still finding what the differences are. But yeah, there isn't any there's no reason why you can't. Like, we're using it, both Blue and I are in 6 now, and we're successfully running this. I don't know whether you could call it successfully or not, but we are running it.
We're running
this event. Yeah. So, yeah, have a play, see what you think.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I just don't want to put it on our production systems just yet. But admittedly, I just moved some of our production Macs to Sonoma, right? So, you know, I'm slow on upgrading a lot of stuff, especially when it's working. All right, the other question that Muddy had: have you heard of NAB? That was part one of the question. I feel like he's driving and may have missed a word there. And then the second part: was there anything you saw that is relevant to virtual events? What excited you from the show? Any cool new battery tech? There's a softball for you. Grant, what do you think?
That's a softball for you. Yeah. So National Association of Broadcasters is what it used to be called. There was 100,000 people that all went to Vegas Convention Center and all geek out on a bunch of media and production equipment and services. And so we were kind of covering it a little bit for officehours.global. And yeah, I think there's definitely a big shift in lots of companies bringing out all sorts of different gear for people that are working from home and doing events. So lots of lighting companies that have entry level lights and cameras and switches and all that sort of stuff. Blackmagic brought out a bunch of new gear, and there's some cool stuff there. So yeah, nothing specifically that I was like, oh, this needs to be on every virtual event from now on. But there's a lot more in cloud production as well, and so that's all very, very interesting. the the roll up LED display was really cool. Yeah. And so yeah, there's nothing too much, I don't think, to bring to the attention here. The thing I think I would say, I guess, is I keep saying about Zoom tiles is this new thing that Zoom's bringing out. We have to investigate how we might or may not be able to use that with Obvio easily. So we have to think about how we can get it to join our events, things like that. But what it is being able to customize a gallery view, change the shape, change the backgrounds, how many people you want in the gallery view. And then one of the coolest features is being able to time it, where it switches out people in the gallery view. So you could have a gallery view of 20 people and you've got an event with 60 people in it. And you can say, cycle through these people, and you can sort of moderate them as well and say, don't show this person, don't show any of the co-hosts, and definitely show this person all the time. Right. So have a gallery view sitting there that has these 5 people you always want there, and then have another 15 people that are rotating through on a timer that you set. And you can make them circles, and you can put borders around them, and you can shift them apart. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Tiles was interesting. I was when I first saw it, I was like, I have no idea how I'm going to use this. And then I started thinking a little bit more about it. And one of the things that the Tony Robbins team, I think, does really, really well when they're cutting a show, right? When they're cutting between their cameras and all their things, is when Tony or KK or Scotty or one of the people who are on stage are hyping people up, and everybody's dancing and, like at home, like jumping up and down and so on and so forth. Their team, the person who's behind the switcher, is cutting between the camera angles, but also does a great job of cutting to participants who are doing that. And one of the things that they have is they have a device that gives them a multi-view of 16 participants. And then they have another version that gives them a multi-view of 9 participants. And how they're feeding those they have like 40, 50 different Zoom computers. And on each computer, they're picking somebody who's excited. And then the person who's cutting can cut to that what looks like a gallery view, but it's a cleaner look, right? Because there's no space in between. It's just full screen. There's no zoom um, uh, stuff on it, basically.
Debris.
And I've always been a little envious of that particular look, because in order to get it done right, you have to have a minimum of 9, right? Because one of them is 9 3x3 tiles, and the other one is 4x4. So 9 or 16 computers being fed into this multi-view machine that then feeds a video signal into the source. So what I did start getting excited about was, oh, we could actually do one of those views from a single meeting, have it be fed out through NDI or hopefully SDI into our switcher, and it's all fed just off of one meeting rather than having it have to be fed off of 5 or 6 or 10 meetings or whatever. So we could pick potentially 9 people and do a 3x3, and when there's a hype moment, we can cut between individual attendees, but then also cut to that multi-view without having to have, because we don't have 9 Zoom computers in our primary studio, right? We only have 8. So I've always been like, I need one more computer to be able to do that. So anyway, that is something, most of the stuff at NAB applies to nobody here. In fact, it barely applies to, most of it barely applies to myself and Grant as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And most of the really cool stuff that you can buy, neither one of us can afford together. So anyway, yeah, interesting. Although I did buy a 120 by 120, or pre-ordered one.
Oh, you did? Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, like, we're not buying a techno crane.
No.
Those.
No, or a roll-up LED wall. Like, I'm just like, I'm not, especially from that lady. Anyway, let's see. Natalia snuck in a couple of other questions while we were just chatting. One of them was, what level of Zoom plan subscription do you need? I assume in order to use Obvio, you don't need a Zoom subscription in order to use Obvio for your events. You wind up using the Obvio Zoom licenses for your event. Your Zoom Pro license, you would still use for your personal use, right? Like for your individual one-on-one meetings or stuff like that. But for your event itself, you use the Obvio meetings. And then she asked a second question, which was the limit of attendees per event in Obvio. I heard you say 500 or 600 before. At those levels, what plan of Zoom do I need? Back to that question. And also, what happens if I have 620 people register or 720 people? So the limit is for the Obvio Pro subscription, which you have because you're in Leap. The Leap subscription is Obvio Pro, okay? The limit is 500 attendees per event. Now, here's something that's a really important distinction. It's 500 active attendees in your event. Now, what does an active attendee mean? It means anybody who has logged into the dashboard at some point during your event, okay? Now, why is that important? If you're doing a webinar, as an example, and that is a free webinar, and you have 500, or let's say actually 5,000 people register for your webinar, well, all 5,000 people aren't going to show up, right? For a free webinar, your show up rate is much, much, much lower. In fact, for a lot of free webinars, the show up rate is 10%. So if you have only 500 people show up to your webinar, even though you had 5,000 people register, you don't need any more credits or packages in order to increase the capacity of your event. So it's active participants, which is a change that we made about a year or so ago. Now, in addition to that, if you are going to have more than 500 active participants, you can have that. There's a few things that you have to consider, but the most important thing from Obvio's perspective is you have to just increase the capacity of your event. The capacity of your event can be increased for $100 for a 250 person block for your event. So $100 will have you go from 500 to 750. $200 will have you go from 500 to 1,000. $300 will have you go from 500 to 1,250, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The thing to keep in mind, and this is with 3 minutes left in our call, this is not the time to actually go into the details of how you would solve for this. But the thing to keep in mind is individual Zoom meetings have a cap of 1,000 participants. So once you get over 1,000 active participants, people in Zoom, you need to be running more than one Zoom meeting. And the challenge you have to overcome is you now have to get your video and audio into 2 computers or 2 meetings rather than just one. It's not terribly hard to do. There's a few different ways you can do it, but it is something that you have to be aware of as you start to scale. But Grant and I always say, if you have more than 1,000 people present at your event, you should be hiring help, right? You should be getting somebody to support you, because at that point, hopefully you can afford it. And there are a number of people inside the community. Justin James is on this call. Muddy is on this call. Myself and Grant also have, the capability to help outside of Obvio, as like pay for services. There are several other people inside the community who can support that. Ken Sky comes to mind as a elite member. So there's a lot of people who can support you with that inside the community, and all know how to use Obvio very, very well. And Zoom.
It would be a nice problem to have, for sure.
It's a fantastic problem to have to solve for, right? Like the bottom line is, if that's a problem we have to figure out, awesome. Yeah, exactly, Diana. Let's go.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
All right. And let's let Fake Jeff ask a question in 60 seconds or less.
Hey, Fake Jeff. Thanks.
Yes, Sarah.
So I was just wondering, on my Ovio dashboard, the virtual 3-day summit, I got this offline page and I have the event times on it. But then when I log into just attendee dashboard, like my dashboard, but from attendee's view, and then go onto that offline page, it doesn't show the dates.
Okay. Can you share your screen?
Sure.
You got your audio working, Sarah. Sounds good.
Yeah, I did. Okay. So, see, on the right one? Yeah. Okay, so I'm on my dashboard, and when I say join the main stage, I should have the event dates here.
Okay, hold on. Let's okay, got it.
See how it looks like that? Well,
I do. Yep.
If you go, no.
Okay, hold on. What? Yeah. Okay, I already see what your problem is. So first off, can you do me a favor? Go into that. Just go into that for a second. Click the gear. And highlight. Just give it a second.
My computer gets really slow when I'm screen sharing.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Highlight all of that and copy it, like Command C. Okay, now go into Zoom areas. The page that you're looking at right now is the event offline page. And the page that you're trying to edit is the area offline page. They're a little bit different. So go into main stage and click offline text.
Sorry.
Halfway down in the middle. There you go. Yep. And in the second window down below, paste what you copied previously and click save. All right, now go to your other tab. Yep. And refresh that page.
Oh, thanks.
There you go.
Yeah, I didn't I guess that's.
It's not terribly intuitive. It's a little that feature is a little hidden, but it is there and it works. The page that you were editing is the page that attendees see if you go to the settings tab and disable the event, make it offline. And then when somebody goes to your dashboard, the event offline page is what they see. So that's what that page is for specifically. And the area offline pages are a little bit different. So hopefully that helped.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome. All right, guys, great call. Thank you for amazing questions. We managed to fill the 22 minutes we had and end 2 minutes late. So go team, go. Grant, thank you very much from Adelaide, Australia.
Thank you.
Every time he spoke to somebody this week at NAB, it's like, Grant here from Adelaide, Australia. How are you today?
That's right. Just rubbing it in that I didn't have to fly to Vegas. I just got to sit at home. It was pretty cool.
Oh, that was awesome. Who was the person? There was one person that you interviewed. It was either today or yesterday. It was yesterday, actually. And it was a vendor who was like insane. It was like he was crazy. And you were like, you could not get him off fast enough.
No, I said what it was like is that we got to his booth, and then we drove and we parked at his booth, and then he got in our car and hijacked it. Like that's just what happened. He got onto the microphone and he's like, "This is mine" for 10 minutes.
I really thought one of the things that could have gone a little different. Now you guys get to hear just me and Grant talking for a second. I think one of the things that could have gone a little bit better there is the equivalent of a stage manager, like somebody to really make the call as to like, because some of those booth interviews went way too long.
Yeah, they did.
And it was like, okay,
we've got the idea now. Let's move on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we could have seen twice the amount of booths if there was a little bit better time management. And that's, obviously that's a skill set that probably doesn't exist with all the nerds who were there from office hours.
That's right. All the volunteers. Exactly.
Right? Yeah, exactly. But anyway, it was super cool. I really enjoyed it.
It was fun.
I enjoyed watching. I watched I haven't watched today's yet, obviously, but I watched yesterday's coverage. It was pretty cool.
Oh.
All right, my friend. Talk to you later.
All right.
Thanks, everybody else.
Bye-bye. Yeah.